Welcome back to another episode of the Casey Campbell podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course. Pleased to be joined by the one, the only Nathan Solomon of the Podium Finish and WSBU Radio, fresh off a trip from Las Vegas from Super Bowl Media Day. Yeah, that had to be pretty cool. Third time you've done it. So how was it?
It was great, man. Thanks for having me on as always. It's unbelievable. I've gotten to do Super Bowl Media Week for 3 years in a row, broadcast live from Radio Row.
Yeah.
Did that as a student at St. Bonaventure. I'm a senior now, so I'm graduating. So as of right now, no more scheduled trips to Radio Row with WSBU, but who knows what could be down in the future.
Absolutely. Who did you get to? I know you guys all talked to a ton of people. Who were some of the highlights of the people you got to talk to?
Yeah, so we were at opening night Monday where we were able to talk with all the competing players and coaches. I got to talk with Andy Reid. I got to talk with Kyle Juszczyk, Sam Darnold, my former Jets quarterback. I love that. But then on Radio Row, we had some great guests from a variety of different places. I mean, of course, the NFL side of things, but also some entertainers. Had Terry Fader, Carrot Top, a couple of very famous Vegas
Third top,
performers. We had Buddy Valestro. He hosts the
Big
Cake Boss
Boss.
show on TLC. But then, of course, we had a bunch of NFL players. We had Jamar Chase, we had T. Higgins, we had the running back duo for the Washington Commanders, Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson. We had Amir Smith-Marset. We had Dolphins punter Jake Bailey. We had former Jets running back Bilal Powell. It was another loaded slate out there. So
Yeah.
it was a great time. I think Vegas is a terrific host venue. Tuesday night we were at the media party. There's even a little NASCAR flavor there, thanks to
Yeah,
Legacy Motor Club.
yeah, I saw the you got the Jimmy Johnson car in there.
Yeah, there's show cars from like the Cup side, Xfinity side, and trucks. There's an old Richard Petty car in there.
Yep.
So really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed exploring the Formula One paddock as well.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Favorite guest that you got to interview?
Jake Bailey was awesome. I really like talking with Jake Bailey. Like I said, punter for the Dolphins. He's just like a super normal guy. He talked about playing up in Buffalo. Just some fun punting stories. He talked about how he has a pilot's license. It was just really cool. We're just more like shooting the breeze more than anything than like an actual interview. And this guy is a great NFL punter.
Yeah. And also, if anyone wants to listen back to these interviews, are they available anywhere?
Yes, sir. They are on Spotify. I don't know about any other streaming or like podcast platforms, but they're for sure on Spotify at WSBU 88.3 FM The Buzz.
Okay. Did you get all your yeah, we got all the promotional tags in there, so that's good. Um,
Well, we got most of them, of course.
Most
You
of
can
them are in there.
see me at the Podium Finish as well because
That
it's
was the
Daytona
next
500
part,
week.
though. That was the next part, though. So coming off, the basketball stuff that you do, and now transitioning into NASCAR with the Daytona 500 this week. And of course, all three series kind of starting with Cup, Xfinity trucks, and all that jazz. And of course, ARCA as well. What's it going to be like? Transitioning from being in the Super Bowl to now this.
Hectic, busy, crazy, all of the above. I mean, I come back. I've got two games this week on ESPN's networks, so I'm doing prep for that right now. So it's kind of my crossover season. My crossover season's really like like February into early March until usually 8-10 tournaments done for the men's side for St. Bonaventure. So I'll be really busy these next couple of weeks for sure. I think basketball season got a lot busier than I anticipated it being. With game prep and some travel and Super Bowl and all of that, I was very busy. So now I'm gonna get even busier as I wrap up my basketball slate here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. Okay, so going from to kind of previewing this coming weekend. I know you haven't been in. I know it's been a while since you've written about covered a race or in that shape or form. But what are we going to expect for the Daytona 500 coming up in 2024?
Well, I mean, yeah, I really haven't been in NASCAR mode a whole lot lately because of the basketball. But I mean, what are we talking? Just the Daytona 500? Or are we talking the whole weekend here?
The whole weekend, why not?
I mean, lots of excitement for sure. I mean, it's like Christmas morning, starting tomorrow, Wednesday, we're going to have cars on track every day for the next 5 days. Of course, there's Speed Week stuff going down in Florida already. I know there's New Smyrna has been really busy with a bunch
World
of
Series of
stuff.
asphalt.
Yeah, I mean they've got the late models down there. They've got ARCA cars there. They've got modifieds there. They got a little bit of everything. I know
Yeah.
High Limits is down in Florida. I was watching a little bit of that last
East
night
Bay.
before it rained at East Bay. Yeah,
They're actually
but
getting resumed today. So, and
right,
actually the ASA Stars Tour race is tonight.
okay,
For racing. So,
gotcha. Yeah, so I'm
yeah.
looking forward to it. I mean, like it's gonna be a really fun week. I love Daytona week. I mean, you get a little bit of everything. I mean, I love Wednesday. I mean, Wednesday's media day. Of course, I'm not going to be there, but I love just hearing back and hearing all the different drivers kind of outlooking their season, and then it starts Wednesday night with qualifying. I know we've talked about this before. I don't love how they just get right in their cars and qualify. I'd love if they had an opportunity to work on their stuff a little bit before they went out and laid down a qualifying lap, and then it goes right into the duels on Thursday. So I'm expecting a lot of excitement. We're up to 42 cars right now, so we're going to have two cars that go home. It's Tuesday night, and we still don't know who one of the drivers is going to be on Sunday, maybe, or at least tomorrow. So I think for that New York racing car, we're literally just going to show up at media day and be like, oh, okay, so and so's driving this car, unless of course this announcement happens between the time that we're recording at 4:15 on Tuesday and the time this gets posted. But that wouldn't surprise me. Just whoever we see in the media center Wednesday morning is whoever's going to drive that car. But I think it's going to be really competitive. I think the duels are going to be fun to watch. I think you can't really single-handedly point at one guy and say, okay, I think this is who's going to go home out of the duels. I think all of them have very compelling cases as to why I think they will be in the Daytona 500, but obviously two will not make the show. Your 36 chartered cars are locked in. So there's of course the storylines of the charters. There's also storylines with, okay, X, Y, and Z at new teams. You got Carson Hocevar. He's a full-time Cup driver now, officially. Zane Smith's a full-time Cup driver. You've got um, Stewart Haas Racing, right? Josh Berry, he's a full-time Cup driver now. Noah Gregson's back in finally full-time again after his mishap last year. He's in the 10 car. So lots of storylines carrying over from last year into this year. I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, that's just the Cup side, too. There's plenty on the Xfinity and the truck side, too.
So yeah, let's get to that next. We'll start with Xfinity, then we'll go to trucks. Tons of storylines in Xfinity.
We don't have enough time to talk about all the storylines in
Yeah, I
Xfinity.
know. Well, let's just hit on the big ones.
I mean, I'm looking at the entry list right now. A couple that come to mind. I think number one is SVG. He's running full time in the Xfinity Series this year in the '97 car with Colleague Racing. Colleague's gonna have four cars there, but I think obviously with what SVG accomplished last year and the number of races he's going to run this year, I think this is a very highly anticipated debut. Because any guy that goes out there and wins his NASCAR debut, there's going to be a lot of hype generated around him. And now for a guy who really wants to make a career in NASCAR coming over from supercars, I think that'll be a really fun storyline to watch all year. So looking forward to see what he's going to do. There's going to be a learning curve. I think a lot of people have a very high expectation for him. I think most people need to kind of bump it down about 5 notches a little bit, right? Because remember, he has run two NASCAR Cup Series road course races, an Xfinity road course race,
Yeah.
and a truck oval race, right? Am I missing one in there?
No,
So
I
he's
think you got
run
'em.
he's run 4 NASCAR races. 3 of them are on road courses. He's gonna have to learn how to draft. He's gonna have to learn mild and a half. He's gonna have to learn some of the ins and outs of short tracks. It is going to be a learning curve, but I fully expect him to be in the playoffs because he's probably gonna go out and win one of the road course races, knowing how many road course races there are at Xfinity. So that is certainly, I think, my number one story. I think also, I look at Haley Deegan as well. She's full-time in Xfinity. She's made one Xfinity start in the past, and she ran really well there. So I think the biggest question is how competitive is AM Racing going to be this year? You've got AJ Allmendinger back in Xfinity full-time. He's certainly expected to be a championship contender. You've got a lot of changes over at Joe Gibbs Racing, a brand new crew chief lineup. You've got a couple of constants sort of there because you got Ryan Truex. He's running a part-time slate again. You got John Hunter Nemechek running a part-time slate. But you add Sheldon Creed. You add Chandler Smith. So a couple of new drivers there. Those two guys struggled a bit last year in Xfinity. I mean, Chandler Smith went out. He won early at Richmond for Colleague. Didn't talk a whole heck of a lot about him after that. And then Sheldon Creed, winless at 2 years at RCR. I'd say certainly a disappointment there. Hopefully, we'll see if he can turn things around over at JGR. But then a couple of other like littler storylines I'm looking at. I mean, you got Frankie Muniz making his Xfinity debut. You got Jordan Anderson running with Larry McReynolds, and the way that the points are figured out right now, all three of those cars from Jordan Anderson are going to be in the show even if it rains on Saturday, because Jordan's going to take Jeb Burton's owner points from last year, because Jeb Burton. Amen. That's exactly what I was going to say. So all three of those cars will be in. Excited to see what can happen there, because Larry Mack still got it on the box, but. Yeah, I mean, lots of storylines. I think I could give you a storyline about every single driver here, but I think those are kind of the big ones here. Of course, you got Sammy Smith. He's over at Junior Motorsports now. Big change there. Second year in a row that a Gibbs guy's gone over to Junior Motorsports. So we'll see. Can Brandon Jones have a bounce back year? He ran a little bit better towards the end of the year. I think there's a pretty high expectation for him this season. A lot of it. I'm really excited for the Xfinity Series this year. Jesse Love. I mean, seriously, I go up and down this entry list. I find more and more stuff that I want to talk about.
Yeah. We might have to save a whole podcast for that. But let's talk about the Truck Series. Obviously, a ton of storylines there as well.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you look at the entry list there too. There's, I think, trying to go up and down here. There 38 trucks, so 2 are going to go home. I think. The biggest constants, at least, that you definitely want to talk about is you got Ben Rhodes back, you got Ty Majeski back at Thor Sport. You've got, Jake Garcia's there now. I love the Thor Sport lineup. I mean, how could you not love it? I mean, it's obviously, I think, arguably the best team in the Truck Series for sure. Corey Heim is back for another full-time season. I think that, in a sense, kind of caught people a little bit off guard when that was announced. I think people thought he was pretty much a shoo-in to be a full-time Xfinity Series driver, but he's back. We got Lane Riggs in the 38 truck. I'm really excited about that. I think Lane Riggs, he has a really high ceiling, and he's in one of the best trucks in the series. I think they're going to go out, and they're going to win a lot of races this year. Raja's with Spire Motorsports now in the 71 truck. He's really intriguing. I think this could be the year he finally goes out and maybe wins a race. Ty Dillon's in the Rackley Ward truck, and I think that's a really good move for him. I don't remember if we talked about this before, but him taking a step back from Cup and going into that truck full-time into a truck that's really on the up, I think is the best thing for him. The success and the money wasn't there at the Cup level. I'm glad he recognized that and he dropped back. I'm excited for trucks too. I think there's also going to be a lot of competitive trucks. I think we're looking at, I'd say maybe 15, 20 really competitive trucks in the Truck Series this year, which should make it, I think, a lot more fun, and hopefully could make some of these races a little less chaotic, because I think the Truck Series has a really good product. They just lack, some of these drivers, I'd say for a lack of a better term, lack skill, and that results in some of the races that, like the Phoenix Championship race last year, that just caution after caution after caution, and they can't get into a flow of a race, and it's just not fun for the viewer to watch. So I think with better drivers across the board, it could lead to a better product, which I think will also lead to a higher willingness from NASCAR fans to want to tune in at maybe 9 o'clock on a Friday night to watch a truck race. But I'm very excited. This Truck Series race at Daytona is one of my favorites of the year.
Yeah, and we'll see how it all pans out. Last thing I'm going to ask, time to put your money where your mouth is. You want to try to attempt to do picks?
Why not, man? We are here. Of course, our little pick game will be back this year. So depending on who,
let's not try to collapse this year either.
Yeah, we had a little postseason or playoff collapse, but that's okay. It happens to the best of us. You look at the Baltimore Ravens. They had a great regular season. They collapsed in the playoffs.
Or the Lions. Or the Bills.
No, I would say the Lions really collapsed. I mean, the Ravens were the runaway favorites in the AFC. They didn't get it done this year. No, because they weren't supposed to make the playoffs this year, so you can't really collapse if you weren't there to start with. But yeah, we'll see, though, because my picks may or may not be valid still, because depending on who picks before me, they could steal my pick. I don't know.
True.
So am I starting with the trucks?
Sure. Yes, you can start with trucks.
I'm going to give you one here. It's Daytona. Anything can happen.
Absolutely.
It's kind of out of left field, but it's kind of not. I'm going to go with Bailey Curry. He's in the 41 truck. I believe he's full time this year with Nice.
Yeah.
Mike Hillman Jr. on the box. Bailey
Mhm.
ran really well in his limited races for Nice this year. I think that he's one of the guys that they're really going to be able to build around now that Carson is not there. He's in Cup. I think Bailey goes out and he gets it done at Daytona.
Okay. What about Xfinity?
Xfinity, I feel like is a little bit different. I feel like we don't really see many upset winners in this race in particular. Maybe at Talladega or Daytona later in the year. So in the end, I think you want experience in this race. Going up and down the board here, I'm going to go with John Hunter Nemechek.
Okay. All
I
right.
feel like it's like low key kind of a cop out pick.
Yeah.
Obviously, he knows these cars so well. Part-time slate this year as he's moving over to Legacy Motor Club, but the Gibbs cars were the best in the field last year, and for a long super speedway race like this, for a young group, as in like a young field, typically I think the most experienced guys win this super speedway race in particular. So I'm gonna go with John Hunter Nemechek.
Yeah. Okay. And the big one, who wins the 500?
The 500's an unknown for sure. I think it's the biggest unknown of all three of them. Just because the last 2 years of the next gen era, we've had so many cars that can go out and win a race. I mean, we're looking at this year from of the 36 charter teams, we're looking at 30 cars that I think could win on any given week, which is wild. I I know I think the realistic number might shrink a little bit more, but when you go up and down, I mean, say, oh, this guy, yeah, I could see him winning a race. This guy, yeah, I could see him winning a race. But it doesn't really seem to matter what type of cars it is or even what like type of body it is. Fords are so good at super speedways. I'm gonna pick a Ford,
Okay.
and I am going to pick. This is tough. I'm gonna go Joey Logano.
Okay.
I'm gonna go
Okay.
Joey Logano. I don't know why. Gut feeling says Joey Logano goes out and wins this race.
All right. Okay. Well, Nathan, always good to have you on. We'll check in with you throughout the year. How about that?
Hey man, I will be here. Just let me know. I am always willing to come on and talk a little NASCAR. So I appreciate the time as always.